Greetings, brothers and sisters. So I want to go through the headlines of what's going on with Russia and the Ukraine, according to mainstream liberal media, and then in a longer voiceover, talk about what's really going on. Ukraine drops calm, decrees aggression. Europe braces. So this was from this morning. The headline in Huffington Post: Russia races towards invasion, war. Russia races toward war, U.S. invasion underway, sanctions. Joe Biden announces new Russian sanctions and European troop deployments. So Jojo Magoo is now saying, and look at, he's just getting more and more deliverance boy. Like they're just, saying they want Russian children to starve because his own defense, Secretary of Defense said that it's not really going to affect Putin, but, regular people, and it's really kids. Kids starve when you do economic sanctions, and so this could be millions. It's already, 1 million in Afghanistan, 500,000 in Iraq under Clinton. We know what really severe economic sanctions do to a country because they can't get imports and food and things, especially a place like Russia. And so kids are going to starve. They're, forced into human trafficking and things. And so that's what he's in favor of, right? Even though it's not really going to affect Putin, it's not going to stop them from whatever they're doing here in the Ukraine. Ukraine moves towards imposed state of emergency as U.S. allies pressure Russia with sanctions. Putin boasts about missiles as Ukraine to declare state of emergency. Gary Kasparov says Putin has a sick view of the world following Ukraine invasion. Ukraine conflict live updates. UN threatens more sanctions if armies advance. U.S. officials warn Putin ready to invade after Ukraine moves to impose state of emergency. Genius Trump world plays defense for Putin. So somehow at Huffington Post they came along and blamed Trump for this, right? Majority in the U.S. oppose major role in Russia-Ukraine conflict, says AP Norc poll. And so let's get to the percentage. Just 26% say U.S. should have a major role in conflict, according to a new poll. And so 52% say a minor role, 20% say no, none at all, right? So that's 72% that want, minimal role at best, and 20% say none at all. And that's before, any of the bills start to hit, right? I mean, this is, going into a war, like George W. Bush had 83% approval rating and carte blanche to do whatever he needed to do after the big event in 2001, right? And so that's, complete contrast to this, where 72% want little or nothing to do with this. And nobody's supporting war with Russia, right? So them doing some sort of minor military action and, whatever it might be, some bombing, some, whatever, some, they don't, in terms of putting troops into Russia and fighting, putting troops into Ukraine and fighting Russia, I mean, it would be, I would think almost nobody wants that in America. Fewer than 1 in 6 Americans want U.S. soldiers any Ukraine-Russia war, poll says. So that is, says here, 15% of likely general election voters believe the U.S. should provide troops as a boost on the ground. That's only 15%. Everybody else wants no part of that. They don't want a war. They certainly want World War III. He doesn't have much of a backing. And then, they're not even, dealing with the complete debacle that was the Afghanistan withdrawal under Biden and the whole Afghan and Iraqi wars. And so America has no taste for this, right? So the other piece to this is the people who they go to fight wars has always been the Republicans, the right-wing patriots. That's the population that, people that live in rural areas and, in southern states and things like this, which supplies the military to the United States, surprise the people to populate the military, right? That's the ones who are most, pro-war, backing war. Republicans have always in the past backed wars of all kinds, right? Even under Obama, they loved Obama when he was doing military action in Afghanistan and Syria and these other places, right? There was no Republican voices saying no war, no war, right? For any Democratic president, the Republicans always back Democrats, and certainly Republicans when it's going to war, especially after what happened, in 2001, right? And in other times in history. But now that isn't the case because, I turned on the news. I don't watch Fox much because Fox still sucks. Like Fox sucks just as bad in a different way than MSNBC and CNN. But Fox has, a little bit of a little bit of sprinkling of truther things in there. So it's harder with Fox, right? Even though Fox sucks. But it was Laura Ingraham and Tucker Carlson, and somehow the TV was just on Fox when I turned it on. And so they were talking about, the truth behind they're against the war, both of them, right? Both of them were obviously against the war and its effects on the American people. So think about that. Fox News is top two. I don't know, I don't know what Hannity's position is, but they're top two or two of their top three primetime biggest rated shows. Tucker Carlson is their biggest rated show. Are against the war, right? These two are against the war. And so just think about that because that's never happened with Fox. I don't know if there's been any time in history that Fox hasn't been in favor of a war or something, some sort of military action or whatever it is, right? And so the Republicans are just not behind Joe Biden on this war. Then who's going to fight it, right? The liberals and their cul-de-sacs and who's going to fight Russia, when they haven't done anything directly to us. And there's plenty of other countries like, Israel comes to mind that is always annexing territories in Palestine, for example. And America never has a problem with that, right? I mean, they might say something here or there, but they don't do any economic sanctions. And there's, we have a long history. I mean, our country is built on European people coming to America and, committing basically, which is in many cases a genocide of the native peoples. There was like 120, 110 million Native Americans here, and now the population is 4.5 million. So think about that, right? I mean, all these European countries and the policy of colonization and taking slaves and things, they didn't have a problem with any of that, right? I mean, historically, that's what's happened. And so now they're going to, they're going to have a problem with Russia going in after Ukraine. Americans just don't want another war. There's no enthusiasm for it. There's no energy behind it. After what happened in these last Arab Spring wars leading into COVID and the economic debacle that's happening right now and, the inflation, all these things. Americans want no part of war and don't understand that war is necessary to turn things around, right? And so, like, they're not going to say that to you, but that's what's, as just a distraction. But there's not going to be a coming together. And I don't know if they think there is going to be a coming together, the people that, are pulling the strings here, or that, because they wouldn't have spent so much energy and time dividing everybody. But right now, the Republicans aren't on board. And how many Democrats really want to fight a war or certainly be a part of it, right? They might support Jojo Magoo just because, it's the politically correct thing to do. But they're not going to war. They're not, volunteering their kids or something like this to go fight a war in Russia that could lead to World War III. And so there's that. But there's two more important points that I want to make here. The first one is that for so many of us, this is how it is for me, and I think for most of you, and then lots of other people who don't watch this channel but share a similar attitude towards Jojo Magoo and the mainstream media. I simply don't believe what they're telling me, right, about this war or anything. I mean, I just don't believe you, right? I don't believe them. They lied us into all the last wars. I mean, I know, the official story is lies and deception and behind all of our most recent wars. I mean, certainly probably going back to Vietnam, but the ones that I've been an adult for, certainly, right? And, my brother was in Vietnam and he had all kinds of stories and the CIA guarding the poppy fields, all these things, right? I mean, the troops guarding the poppy fields for the CIA. And so, there's all that, right? But I don't trust the official story. I don't trust the news media. They're always manipulating me. Now, I don't know much about Putin, but I know the Russian, my friends in Russia and the Ukraine, and, people I don't really keep in contact with, but I see them once in a while when I go to India. I'll see, some of them, right? People I've met. They have a shorter trip to India. Of course, it's much warmer in India than in Russia, so they, often go to India for quite a bit of time. So I know people from both the Ukraine and Russia, and they're indistinguishable, right? They hang out with each other. They speak the same language, and so I don't think, some of them are rich. They're wealthy, like some of them are doctors or their parents are doctors, things like this. But I know their lives aren't great. I know that they suffer over there. They don't have the material lives that we have here. And so, I mean, I don't really know that much about Putin, and, I don't know how much better or worse that he is than any of our presidents. But the reality is, I know our leaders and our media lie to us all the time. And so whenever they're saying anything, I just don't believe it. Like, I don't believe, like, it's the opposite of what they're saying, because that's a remedial way to approach it. There's some truth sprinkled in. I don't know how much is truth, how much is lies. That's, the world we live in now. But I think most of you share the same sort of situation. But I simply don't, believe the powers that be. And I know that a war is sort of necessary to keep our economy, to keep our country going, because we're in deep shit right now, right? Economically and socially and every other way. And so, like, a war is one of the only ways to get out of this thing. I mean, don't you find it convenient that when the inflation is taking over and they no longer have COVID, like COVID's like basically not even talked about on the news, and Jojo Magoo didn't get any of his real, his campaign promises done. I mean, there's whatever kind of bailout stuff and the infrastructure stuff to whatever degree. But the Build Back Better failed and all these other things failed. And he's just looking like a tool. Kamala's even worse, right? And so, the CNN is getting less than 1 million total viewers, less than 800,000 viewers a day. I mean, the mainstream media is tanking. It's being overtaken by social media. And, they've lost a lot of these. They've been wrong and lost a lot of these issues, whether anybody acknowledges it or not. That, a lot of Americans are starting to see that it's all BS. And so, it's very convenient that right at this time there's a war brewing with a superpower that could end up in World War III. But there's another bigger important piece to this. At least I think it's more important. And I've talked about this in the past, but people in the truth community always give way too much power to the controllers. They think they're controlling everything, and it's just it's a dysfunctional attitude, because for those of you who believe in God, of course, if you don't believe in God, then this isn't going to really, change anything for you. But for people who believe in God, you have to understand that everything that happens in the universe is, in a sense, happening at the will of the divine, right? As a part of a plan. Even mistakes. God gave us the ability for freedom of choice. God gave us the ability to do wrong. And within the divine system, there is, contingencies for any decision, anything that is done that's a mistake, anything that, people or beings with the intelligence to make decisions that go against God's will is accounted for. In my video I made yesterday, in terms of the heartfulness meditation, the prophecies and things, and the teachings, that the only way people are going to turn things around is if there's these cataclysms, these upheavals, right? One after another. Unless we really go through a tough time, we're not going to change. You can see it. You can see it here. Because people are tolerating all kinds of lies and bizarre behaviors and, social changes and things that have happened in the past 5 years, for example. We're tolerating all these things because we have the internet, we have full bellies, and we're, materially, we're, in good shape, many of us. And even if we're struggling, in poverty, it's still better than being homeless or being without a government, right? If we didn't have a government, it would be like a Mad Max. I mean, it's, governments as bad as they suck. Having no government, it's a disaster, right? And so people are, pacified. Even if we know things are going in the wrong direction, we know that things are, there's evils and, darkness all around us in our system. We're not doing anything about it. That's why I say protests don't work. That's why I say, any way of changing the system doesn't work. Because as long as people are, at least pacified with full bellies and the internet and distractions, they're not going to do anything. People aren't going to rise up. No matter what they discover, what they learn about the controlling system, we're completely controlled, right? We're controlled by our addiction and our complete dependence on a system, and we don't have a backup plan, and we don't have the skills to live without the system. So I've discussed this in so many videos. And so the other piece to this is the majority of Americans think that America has gone and is going in the wrong direction, right? So Trump won on Make America Great Again, right? And half the people believed in that slogan, that the Democrats had taken America away from its greatness, its glory days, and Trump was going to make it great again. And then Jojo Magoo used Build Back Better, that the Trump era and the Trump days had taken America in the wrong direction, and he was going to build back better. And then the stuff to do with COVID and all these things. But most people understand or believe America's going in the wrong direction. It's just that when you're 100% dependent on something, which we are, then you are more likely to have hopium that there's going to be some sort of miracle. But both campaigns, the recent campaigns, were campaigns of, America isn't as good as it was, or it sucks right now, but we can make it better again, right? Build back better and make America great again. So these were, appealing to what people feel about America, that America's going in the wrong direction, but we can turn it around because we have to, because we can't survive without it. Because if America isn't turned around, we're screwed, and we don't want to be screwed. And so, there's this hopium to believe that we can turn it around. But most people understand that America's going in the wrong direction. And people are getting worse, and, it's just everything. The culture's getting worse, and our best days are behind us. But I see this every day just in the comment section, right? Like, what are we trying to save? Like, just go on the internet and see the way people are, and you're like, why would we try to save this? Like, what are we trying to save here? It's just there's nothing to save. For example, I got a comment, I think yesterday, probably 2 days ago, and the comment was to one of my longer videos. Don't know what it was. I didn't save the comment, but the person said to me, "Will you just get to the point?" And he said maybe damn, or there was a swear involved, right? So will you just get to the effing point, or something like that? You just get to the damn point, something, I don't know. Doesn't really matter. And the person was, exacerbated by him feeling that I assume was a him, but it could have been a woman. Let's just call him a him for, lack of, understanding of, who this random person was, that I was not getting to the point. And that didn't offend me. Like, I get a lot of comments like this, and the comment sucks, and I'm going to tell you why it sucks and why I banned the person. I don't want him here. And to me, they're just worthless, right? But it didn't hurt my feelings that he thought I wasn't getting to. I get comments, "Oh, you're so long-winded," whatever. Because to some extent, I agree with him, right? Like, it's hard for me. I'm going to have to listen to this back. This is a voiceover I'm doing. I have to, I talk here, and then I have to edit it. And especially these long voiceovers, I'm listening to myself, for hours every day. And I don't get the, appeal, right? like I wouldn't be a fan of my own show, right? And so if there's somebody who was just like me or similar to me, I wouldn't enjoy listening to them. I don't enjoy listening to myself, right? Now, sometimes my voiceovers relax me. And so I feel the energy and the transmission. Sometimes I even put myself to sleep, right? And so usually I'm answering comments and doing things on the internet, so I'm not really fully engaged in listening to what I'm saying here. But I don't do it as a, like, if I have some free time, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go listen to a video, right? And so a person saying, get to the point, yeah, I understand, right? Like, I don't, totally get my appeal, why people listen to me. Like, I do understand it, but I don't, right? And so I don't, love my own show. So those things don't bother me, right? If you don't like to, and I get people saying, why are you always interrupting, Alec Baldwin, whatever it is. And they don't understand the channel. And it's stupid for them to say that when there's obviously an audience for it, or people who want me to, people say I'm the best part of, whatever. But some people want me just to play the clips. And I'm like, just find the clip on your own. You don't have to, it's because you're lazy. It's easy to find the clip. I found it. And, now you know it exists. It's easy for you to find it. If you don't want me, aren't interested in my, adding things and making jokes, then, get the F out of here. That's, you're at the wrong place. But this person's saying, just get to the point. This is why they suck. Again, so it's not that they said something that hurts my feelings, but the stupidity and the narcissism and the frustration and the suckiness of that comment, right? Because first of all, I don't even know what they're talking about. So the person's talking to me, but they're listening to a video and they're writing a comment. Just get to the effing point. Like the person, like the video is going to transform a video that's already been made hours or days ago. Even is going to transform and say, okay, well, I'll stop what I'm saying now. You masterful person, and I will, get to the point now because you told me to do so, right? The video's already made. Like it's going to go whatever I said. Whenever the point is reached, that's when the point is reached, right? You limp dick, impotent MNFer. Like just get to the point already. Get to the point already. Your comment has no effect. The video's been made. Okay, you could say in the future, maybe you would, cut down on your rhetoric and get to the point sooner. Like you could say something like that, but that falls under the, I don't have a freaking suggestion box, right? I don't have a complaint department. Like, I'm not interested in your feedback. I've said it over and over again. And there's people who want me to talk longer, and they'll leave comments, yeah, I want you to talk longer. You'll see it in this video. People say that all the time. And so, I do make the videos the way I think the videos should be made. And it doesn't matter whether you like it or not. There's people who do, and it's not for you. But for this person to just, get all exact, just get to the point. I'll get to the effing point already. Rah, 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 rah. It's just like, you miserable F, right? Like you're just a blob of impotence and misery and just, what are you doing? Your comment is utterly worthless, right? And you can see other people are interested in what I'm saying. Oftentimes the person, what they're really saying, get to the point is, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm too dumb. And so, say something simple for me because I'm a simpleton. Like that's, maybe this person, maybe not. I don't know. But who cares, right? Like you're here and you have all the power in the world to change the channel. You don't have to listen to it. Just get to the point. But there's a point in here. I'll get the point. The point is on your head, MF, right? But the thing is, and a reason I'm bringing it up in this video about the potential for World War III, is that I see this kind of dysfunction every day. I cover the abyss and the beastly system. I mean, just the depravity of it all. But then I just see the comment section, and that's with me actively banning people and getting rid of undesirable people, right, who are, hostile or whatever they are, right? And even with that, I see it every day, and it's like, what are we trying to save here? Like, what's going on with humanity that we think we can save or should save whatever we've done here? Like, why should we save this system? There's pretty much nothing good about the system. I mean, there's wonderful things like, conveniences and comforts, but in terms of people themselves, it's making people worse. And people suck right now. Like, this is just another example. They just suck so bad, and like you can't fix them or change them, and they're not willing to change themselves. And so that's why there needs to be these catastrophes. It isn't because the controllers are making it happen. It isn't because there's some secret society that's wrecking everything. It's because we suck, as a species, we're on the verge of destroying the planet and, just making everything suck and make it worse, right? That's us. Like, that's what the state of humanity is. And, um, there's really nothing to save here, right? And so there needs to be a wake-up call. There needs to be things that will snap people out of their, addictions and their orientation to the world and return them to a place where they have soul consciousness. They're connected to God internally, and they're going to, strive to be better and return to their original purpose, right? And this is a contingency. There are things that God puts in there, when we become self-destructive, then at some point we destroy ourselves, right? When a species becomes self-destructive like we are right now, then we're going to self-destruct, and that's part of the divine will. And so it's not, the controller's fault. I mean, they're all part of it, but, it's because we decide to go and live our lives free of the spiritual laws and rules that govern the universe, and it's not working out, right? It's not, it's taking us in a self-destructive path, so we're going to have to destroy ourselves. Like, that's what's happening. And someday we might return to a spiritual way of being, the heartfulness meditation I talk about, that facilitates this connection between people and God. But even in, the people I see doing the system, I talk about this a lot, especially recently. People, it's a great system, and it's transformed me, but I still have a long way to go, right? And, it's helped everybody who's done it in one way or another. But, how far are they going to take it? Because, we have a long way to go before we're like, functional and we're, adding and not subtracting from the divine system. And this World War III is just a part of that. Only spirituality can save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely appointed from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.